You mistake noise for power, obedience for virtue. Those who speak, beg, and explain are prey. Authority belongs to the silent observer who withholds, watches, and decides. You were trained to believe that clarity earns respect, that being understood equals being valued. That framework was installed in you deliberately. It keeps you visible, readable, predictable. In any hierarchy, the predictable are managed, not respected. This chapter dismantles that false lens and replaces it with one suited for dominance. Power does not operate on fairness or transparency. It operates on leverage, and leverage requires opacity. The battlefield you're standing on is not social, it's strategic. Every word you release is data. Every explanation is a concession. You think you're communicating, you're actually bleeding position. Silence is not absence. Silence is pressure. When you speak less, you force others to fill the void. They reveal intentions, insecurities, priorities. You gain intelligence while giving none. This is not passivity, this is surveillance. The loud mistake observation for weakness because they've never survived without attention. You've been conditioned to equate goodness with openness. That's moral theater. In real hierarchies, openness is exposure. Exposure invites correction, negotiation, attack. Authority doesn't argue its existence. It occupies space and lets others adjust around it. The moment you explain yourself, you step down to equal footing and invite judgment. Notice who talks the most in rooms that matter. It's never the one with final say. The one who decides sits back, listens, measures reactions. He lets others overextend, overcommit, overpromise. Then he selects. Selection is the core act of power. To select, you must not be invested. Silence preserves optionality. This lens shift is surgical. You stop seeing conversations as exchanges and start seeing them as terrain. You stop measuring your worth by response and start measuring control by restraint. Every urge to clarify, defend, or impress is an impulse to relinquish ground. Kill that impulse. Authority is not built through persuasion. Persuasion is for those who need permission. Authority is felt through non-need. When you demand nothing, you become expensive. When you ask for nothing, people project value onto you. Scarcity governs attention, and attention governs hierarchy. You've been taught to signal loyalty through speech, agreement, affirmation, emotional display. That's how systems identify the compliant. Silence disrupts that signal. It creates ambiguity. Ambiguity creates caution. Caution creates deference. This is not about being liked, it's about being unchallenged. Reframing the battlefield means understanding that most people are fighting for validation, not outcomes. They want to be seen, heard, approved. That makes them noisy. Noise creates patterns. Patterns are exploited. The silent operator doesn't compete in that arena. He stands outside it and extracts advantage from those inside. From this point forward, words are no longer expressions. They are deployments. You don't speak to connect, you speak to position. And often the strongest position is silence. The predator does not announce movement. The surgeon does not narrate the cut. They act when the moment is optimal. This chapter does not ask you to withdraw from the world. It demands that you stop leaking yourself into it. Reclaim informational sovereignty. Let others reveal. Let others overcommit. You will see the hierarchy clearly once you stop broadcasting your place within it. The battlefield was never about being right. It was about who is exposed and who is concealed. Now you know where to stand. Authority begins where reaction ends. Most men leak power not through weakness, but through compulsion, the need to respond, to explain, to correct, to be acknowledged. That compulsion is the pressure point. This chapter exposes why withholding is the central mechanism behind dominance and why those who cannot restrain themselves are permanently subordinate. Withholding is not silence for its own sake, it is control over access. Information, emotion, intention, these are currencies. The moment you distribute them freely, their value collapses, you become cheap. The hierarchy does not reward honesty, it rewards scarcity. What is rare is protected, what is protected is powerful. Every interaction contains an invisible negotiation. Who needs more? Who reveals more? Who waits? The one who waits longer wins. Time pressure is a weapon used against the impatient. When you feel the urge to reply immediately, you are being pulled into someone else's frame. You are reacting to their urgency, their agenda. Withholding breaks that pull. It recenters gravity around you. Emotion is the most expensive resource you possess. When you display it openly, approval, frustration, excitement, you hand others a control panel. They learn what moves you, what provokes you, what rewards you. From that moment on, you can be steered. The emotionally restrained man is unreadable. Unreadable men cannot be easily manipulated. Demanding nothing is the apex of withholding. Demands signal dependency. Even justified demands reveal need. Need places you beneath whoever can grant or deny it. When you want nothing, you reverse the polarity. Others begin to seek your approval, your response, your engagement. You become the selector, not the applicant. This is why silence unnerves people. It denies them feedback. Humans are addicted to feedback because it confirms position. When you refuse to provide it, they begin to fill the gap with projection. They assume authority, judgment, superiority. None of it is real, but all of it changes their behavior in your favor. Withholding also preserves optionality. The man who commits early loses leverage. The man who reveals his stance too soon limits future movement. By staying undefined, you keep doors open while others close theirs through overcommitment. This is not indecision, it is strategic patience. Observe how often people sabotage themselves by oversharing. They explain motivations no one asked for. They justify actions already taken. They announce plans prematurely. Each act feels virtuous, honest, human. Each act reduces their bargaining power. The system rewards those who let outcomes speak, not intentions. There is a deeper layer here, self-withholding. Resisting the urge to perform even when no one is watching, not narrating your struggle, not externalizing your process. Power consolidates internally first. If you need witnesses to feel real, you will always be dependent on them. Withholding forces others to reveal asymmetrically. In any exchange, the one who speaks less learns more. The one who learns more adapts better. The one who adapts better survives longer. This is selection in its purest form. Nature does not favor the expressive, it favors the observant. You were trained to believe that contribution equals participation. False. Presence alone is leverage when it is controlled. When you stop offering constant input, your words gain weight. When you finally speak, it lands. Scarcity amplifies impact. This mechanism is ruthless because it works regardless of intention. You don't need to intimidate. You don't need to posture. You simply need to stop feeding the system with unnecessary data. Starve it. Let others exhaust themselves trying to read you. Withholding is not about hiding fear. It is about eliminating waste. Waste of words, waste of emotion, waste of explanation. What remains is precision. Precision is authority. Once you understand this mechanism, you can never unsee it. You will recognize immediately who is powerful, not by how much they say, but by how little they need to.
Hierarchies are not built by talent or morality. They are built by behavior. This chapter cuts through personality myths and exposes the archetypes that naturally emerge wherever power exists. Once you see them, you will recognize your past mistakes instantly and understand exactly why certain men are always selected while others are consumed. The first archetype is the loud. He speaks to be seen. He fills silence because it terrifies him. He believes presence is volume and influence is visibility. The loud man mistakes activity for importance. In reality, he is a flare, bright, temporary, easy to track. Hierarchies use him for energy and discard him when he becomes noise. The loud man over-explains. He narrates intentions. He defends himself preemptively. This behavior signals insecurity, not transparency. Those above him do not feel threatened, they feel informed. He gives away leverage in exchange for momentary attention. Attention is cheap, position is not. The second archetype is the loyal. He is more dangerous to himself. Loyalty feels noble, it feels stabilizing, but loyalty without leverage is servitude. The loyal man binds his identity to causes, people, institutions. He signals reliability through compliance. In return, he receives tasks, not power. The loyal man believes endurance will be rewarded. He waits his turn. He sacrifices personal advantage for group approval. He becomes indispensable, but never irreplaceable. Hierarchies extract maximum output from him while bypassing him for elevation. Loyalty is valued, but only from below. Then there is the sovereign. He is not louder or more moral. He is restrained. He observes before engaging. He does not rush to align or oppose. He withholds commitment until leverage is clear. His silence is not confusion, it is calculation. The sovereign does not announce loyalty, he offers conditional alignment. He is useful, but not dependent. Because he is not predictable, he cannot be easily managed. Because he is not needy, he cannot be easily bought. This makes him expensive. Expensive entities are treated with care. Notice how these archetypes interact. The loud competes with other louds for attention. The loyal stabilizes the structure through obedience. The sovereign floats above both, rarely visible, always informed. When decisions are made, the loud is ignored, the loyal is assigned, and the sovereign is consulted. Most men oscillate between loud and loyal, thinking they are choosing between confidence and virtue. In reality, both are submission patterns. One submits through exposure, the other through attachment. Both make themselves legible. Legibility is the enemy of autonomy. The sovereign is not antisocial. He simply refuses unnecessary signaling. He does not rush to prove intelligence, morality, or competence. He lets others assume. Assumptions work in his favor because they are built on scarcity. People respect what they cannot fully access. This is why the sovereign often triggers resentment. The loud feels ignored. The loyal feels unappreciated. Both sense correctly that the sovereign is playing a different game. They accuse him of arrogance, detachment, coldness. These accusations are tells. They reveal frustration at lack of access. The critical realization here is that hierarchies do not promote the most expressive or the most devoted. They elevate the most controlled. Control over self precedes control over environment. The sovereign does not seek the spotlight eventually seeks him. If this chapter unsettles you, it should. You are seeing the map, not the myth. You are recognizing where you've been placed, not by malice, but by behavior. The hierarchy was responding exactly as designed. From this point on, you have a choice. Continue performing as loud or loyal, or begin the long, uncomfortable transition into sovereignty. That transition requires silence, patience, and the willingness to be misunderstood. By now, you understand silence as positioning. This chapter sharpens it into something more dangerous, a weapon. Not symbolic, functional, historically proven, embedded in human nature long before language was refined enough to lie convincingly. Predators do not announce intent. They do not explain movement. They wait, they watch, they strike when resistance is lowest and certainty is highest. Humans are no different, only more delusional about it. Civilization did not erase dominance mechanics. It disguised them under etiquette and morality. Silence remained the same tool. It simply became socially invisible. Look at every structure that has endured: empires, dynasties, intelligence agencies, criminal organizations. Their power centers are never loud. Orders flow downward, but observation flows upward. Those at the top speak last, or not at all. Silence allows distance. Distance prevents contamination. The moment a leader becomes emotionally reactive, expressive, or transparent, authority fractures. History rewards restraint. The general who reveals strategy early loses wars. The ruler who explains decisions invites rebellion. The negotiator who speaks too much concedes leverage without realizing it. Silence compresses pressure. Others move first. Others expose weakness. Others make mistakes that cannot be undone. Human nature fills silence with anxiety. The mind is allergic to uncertainty. When denied information, people invent it. They project fear, superiority, judgment, or authority onto whoever withholds. This projection changes behavior. People self-regulate around what they cannot read. They soften tone. They hesitate. They defer. This is why silence has always been associated with dominance, not because it is mystical, but because it shifts cognitive load. You stop working, others start. They overthink. They second-guess. They negotiate against themselves. You simply observe the unraveling. Examples are everywhere once you stop romanticizing noise. The most dangerous man in a room is rarely the one speaking. It's the one everyone keeps glancing at before they decide what to say. The ones whose reaction matters but is never predictable. The one whose silence feels evaluative, not empty. Silence also protects against entanglement. Words bind. Statements create expectations. Promises create obligations. Explanations create arguments. The silent man avoids premature commitment. He remains fluid while others harden into positions. Fluidity is survival. Rigidity is target acquisition. There is also a darker truth. Silence denies others the emotional nourishment they seek: approval, validation, reaction. Most people speak not to inform, but to extract response. When you deny that response, you deprive them of control. Deprivation breeds compliance or exposure, both useful. This is why silence feels cold. Cold is efficient. Heat dissipates energy. Cold preserves it. Emotional expression is heat loss. Restraint is conservation. In long games, conservation wins. Those who burn bright exhaust themselves. Those who conserve remain when the field thins. You were told silence is weakness because compliant systems require expression to function. Noise is traceable. Silence is not. Power structures prefer trackable units. The silent man disrupts metrics. He cannot be easily categorized, incentivized, or punished. That makes him dangerous to systems built on compliance. Understand this clearly. Silence is not virtue. It is not politeness. It is not introversion. It is an active force that bends behavior without confrontation. It creates space where others collapse inward. Used correctly, it ends arguments before they begin and wins battles without visible conflict. This chapter is meant to remove any remaining doubt. Silence is not neutral. It is not empty. It is loaded.
And once you recognize it as a weapon, you also see how rarely it is used correctly and how exposed most people are. From here, the question is no longer whether silence works. The question is whether you are disciplined enough to wield it without flinching. Understanding power without changing behavior is indulgence. This chapter is not theory, it is recalibration. You are not adding traits, you are removing liabilities. Authority is not built by doing more, it is built by doing less, deliberately, precisely, without apology. The first recalibration is response latency. You stop reacting on cue. Immediate replies signal availability. Availability signals low value. You allow time to pass, not theatrically, not manipulatively, but because urgency is rarely real. Let others sit with uncertainty. Time reveals intent. Patience extracts information without effort. Next is verbal economy. You cut your word count in half, then in half again. You remove qualifiers, justifications, emotional framing. You state conclusions, not processes, outcomes, not intentions. If asked why, you decide whether the question deserves access. Most do not. Silence or brevity is the answer. You also recalibrate agreement. Automatic agreement is loyalty signaling. You replace it with neutral acknowledgement. You do not rush to align. You do not rush to oppose. You let others commit first. Commitment creates leverage asymmetry. Once they're invested, you retain optionality. Then comes emotional withdrawal. This does not mean suppression, it means containment. You stop broadcasting internal states, no visible irritation, no visible excitement, no visible validation seeking. Emotion becomes internal data, not external signal. The fewer buttons you expose, the fewer that can be pressed. Your physical behavior changes as well. Less movement, fewer gestures. Stillness communicates control. Predators conserve motion. Prey fidgets. You occupy space without filling it. Presence without performance unsettles people conditioned to constant signaling. You also recalibrate availability. You are not always reachable. You do not explain absence. You do not compensate for it. Scarcity sharpens perception. When you appear less, your presence carries more weight. People notice patterns even if they cannot articulate them. Crucially, you stop volunteering value prematurely. Advice, effort, solutions, these are offered selectively. Value given freely is assumed to be infinite. Value given conditionally is respected. You let people qualify themselves for access to your competence. This recalibration will feel uncomfortable because it violates your conditioning. You will feel rude, distant, underperforming. That discomfort is withdrawal. You are detoxing from validation dependence. Do not correct it. Let it burn out. Expect resistance. People accustomed to your availability will test boundaries. They will provoke reactions, demand clarity, accuse you of changing. These are extraction attempts. Maintain restraint. The moment you explain yourself, you reset the hierarchy to its previous state. This is not about dominance displays. Displays attract challengers. This is about invisible authority, the kind that shapes behavior without confrontation. When people adjust themselves around you without being told, recalibration is working. You are not becoming passive, you are becoming selective. Selectivity is the hallmark of power. Those with options choose carefully. Those without options rush. This chapter arms you with behavior that aligns with sovereignty, not aspiration. You are no longer signaling who you want to be. You are behaving as if position is assumed. Over time, the environment conforms. By the end of this recalibration, you will notice something subtle. Fewer challenges,
fewer demands, fewer explanations required. That is not coincidence. That is hierarchy responding to behavior. This is the point most men fail, not because the strategy is unclear, but because the identity required to execute it feels like a loss. This chapter does not negotiate that loss. It completes it. Authority demands an identity death. The compliant self cannot coexist with sovereignty. The old identity was built around response, being needed, being seen as good, capable, reliable. That identity survived on feedback, praise, conflict, validation, even criticism. It all confirmed existence. Strip that away and the self panics. That panic is the death signal. Let it happen. You are killing the version of you that explained itself, the version that sought to be understood, the version that confused exposure with honesty and loyalty with strength. That identity was optimized for inclusion, not power. Inclusion is irrelevant. Selection is what matters. Identity death is quiet. There is no ceremony, no announcement. You simply stop feeding the old patterns. No more preemptive justification, no more emotional broadcasting, no more over-functioning for others. The old self starves. Silence accelerates the process. In its place, a colder identity forms, not cruel, not emotional, but contained. This identity does not chase coherence from others. It does not seek alignment to feel stable. It is internally referenced. Decisions come from internal command, not external pressure. The replacement identity understands a brutal truth. Most relationships were never built on respect, only access. When access changes, relationships change. This is not betrayal, it is exposure. The people who remain are those who adjust. The rest self-select out. You will be accused, internally and externally, of becoming distant, arrogant, unrecognizable. These accusations are meaningless. They come from those who benefited from your previous leakage. Their discomfort is proof that the old system is dying. The new identity is not loud. It does not posture. It does not threaten. It simply withholds participation unless terms are favorable. This is sovereignty in practice. You no longer need to dominate because you are no longer available to be dominated. There is a moment, uncomfortable, silent, where you realize no one is coming to validate this transition. No applause, no confirmation. That is the final test. Authority begins where validation ends. If you can stand there without retreating, the replacement locks in. From that point forward, behavior feels effortless. Restraint is natural. Silence is automatic. You no longer feel the urge to explain because there is nothing to prove. Your identity is no longer negotiated in conversation. It is assumed through presence. This is not self-improvement. It is self-replacement. The old identity was designed to be consumed. The new one is designed to endure. Once the replacement is complete, you will notice something irreversible. You cannot return to the old self without disgust. That is how you know the death was real. You are no longer asking how to gain authority. You are living in a way that makes authority inevitable.
This is where separation happens. Not philosophically, operationally. Everything before this point was preparation. This chapter draws the line that most will refuse to cross, because crossing it ends the last illusion, that you can hold power while remaining agreeable. The world does not reward restraint openly, it punishes it first. Silence is misunderstood as weakness by the loud. Distance is framed as arrogance by the dependent. You must accept this cost in advance. Authority is never granted by consensus. It is recognized after resistance fails. Here is the final directive. Stop signaling. No more announcing intentions, no more hinting depth, no more proving intelligence, morality, or capability. Signaling is a bid for acknowledgement. Bids expose need. Need collapses hierarchy. You will be tempted to re-engage, to soften edges, to explain that you are still the same. That impulse is the old identity attempting resurrection. Do not negotiate with it. Power requires continuity. One fracture resets perception. From this point on, you operate on a single principle: selective presence. You engage where leverage exists. You withdraw where it doesn't. You are not hostile. You are unavailable. This distinction matters. Hostility invites conflict. Unavailability ends it. Understand this clearly. Most men will never do this. They will keep talking, proving, aligning, pleading. They will confuse motion for progress and visibility for influence. They will remain legible, predictable, manageable. The hierarchy depends on them. You are not here to save them. You are here to survive selection. The elite never announce themselves. They are identified by gravity. Others orbit. Conversations slow when they enter. Decisions pause. Reactions are measured. That is the effect of restraint compounded over time. If you revert, if you seek applause, reassurance, moral credit, you will feel immediate relief and long-term irrelevance. That is the trade. Choose consciously. This is the final warning. Once you adopt this posture fully, you cannot unsee the structure. You will recognize manipulation instantly. You will feel contempt for noise. You will lose patience for performative virtue. That distance is permanent. There is no community waiting at the end of this path, no banner, no permission slip. Sovereignty is solitary by design. Say less. Observe more. Demand nothing. That is not advice. It is a filter.